Enlightenment in Mahayana Buddhism, the vision of awakening for all beings. Introduction. Enlightenment is the beating heart of Buddhism, the ultimate goal of its philosophy and practice. While all Buddhist traditions share the aspiration to transcend suffering and attain liberation, Mahayana Buddhism, the great vehicle, presents a particularly expansive, inclusive, and compassionate vision of awakening. Unlike the narrower, individualistic orientation sometimes associated with early Buddhism, Mahayana frames enlightenment not only as a personal liberation, but as a cosmic process bound to the liberation of all sentient beings. This essay explores the concept of enlightenment in Mahayana Buddhism in depth, its philosophical foundations, its vision of the Bodhisattva path, its doctrines such as emptiness anyat and Buddhanature tes Gatagarbha, its scriptural sources, and its practical implications for spiritual life. By examining these dimensions, we will see how Mahayana reformulates the quest for enlightenment into a profound journey of compassion, wisdom, and universal liberation. 1. Enlightenment in early Buddhism versus Mahayana Buddhism. In the early Buddhist traditions, often called Theravada enlightenment, nirvana is primarily understood as the cessation of suffering, craving, and ignorance. The practitioner's task is to eliminate the causes of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, and attain liberation through ethical discipline, meditation, and insight into impermanence, non-self, and suffering. The ideal figure is the arhat, the saint who achieves personal liberation from samsara. Mahayana Buddhism, emerging around the 1st century CE, did not reject these ideals but reframed them. It critiqued the limited aspiration of seeking only one's personal nirvana, calling it the path of the Ravaka disciple or Pratyeka Buddha, solitary enlightened one. Instead, it emphasized the Bodhisattva ideal, one who, moved by great compassion, vows not to enter final nirvana until all beings are liberated. Thus, in Mahayana, enlightenment becomes more than escape from samsara. It becomes the realization of wisdom and compassion that embraces all existence. Enlightenment is not simply individual cessation, but the flowering of boundless awareness, inseparable from the liberation of others. 2. The Bodhisattva path, enlightenment as universal aspiration. Central to Mahayana's vision is the Bodhisattva, the being who generates bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, or the vow to attain enlightenment for the sake of all beings. This marks a radical shift. The practitioner's goal is not personal liberation alone, but the awakening of the whole cosmos. The Bodhisattva path is often described as unfolding across 10 stages, bhimis, culminating in Buddha. Each stage represents deeper wisdom, compassion, and skillful means. The Bodhisattva cultivates the 6 pramits, perfections, generosity, ethical conduct, patience, energy, meditation, and wisdom as the core practices leading to enlightenment. The Bodhisattva's enlightenment is not private, it is universal. To be enlightened in Mahayana is to realize one's inseparability from others. Liberation is collective, not individualistic. This represents one of the greatest contributions of Mahayana thought, the transformation of enlightenment into a cosmic mission of compassion. 3. The doctrine of emptiness, anyat, wisdom at the heart of enlightenment. Mahayana philosophy is deeply shaped by the teaching of nyat, emptiness, articulated most profoundly in the Madhyamika school founded by Emptiness means that all phenomena are devoid of inherent existence. They arise dependently through causes and conditions, and have no independent essence. Understanding emptiness is not a nihilistic denial, but a liberating wisdom. By realizing emptiness, one overcomes clinging, attachment, and reification. Enlightenment, therefore, is the profound insight that reality is interdependent, dynamic, and free from fixed conceptual categories. This insight also grounds compassion. Because the self has no independent essence, the boundaries between self and others dissolve. Enlightenment is thus not only wisdom, but also the flowering of compassion. Since all beings are seen as interconnected. 4. Buddha nature Tathagataga, the potential for enlightenment, in all another cornerstone of Mahayana, is the doctrine of Buddha nature. This teaching affirms that all sentient beings already contain within themselves the seed of Buddhahood. Enlightenment is not something alien or external. It is the unveiling of an innate purity obscured by ignorance and delusion. Texts such as the Tathagataga Baskros and the Moprinave Skra emphasize that every being has the inherent capacity to awaken. This doctrine democratizes enlightenment, making it accessible to all. Regardless of current defilements or limitations, Buddha nature ensures that the Bodhisattva's vow is not futile. Since every being already possesses the potential for enlightenment, compassion and effort are meaningful. Enlightenment, then, is not the creation of something new, but the uncovering of a reality always already present. 5. The role of compassion and wisdom. The two wings of enlightenment. Mahayana thought, enlightenment is sustained by two inseparable qualities: compassion, karu, and wisdom, prajk. Wisdom realizes the emptiness of all phenomena, freeing the mind from attachment and delusion. Compassion arises naturally from this insight, as the enlightened mind sees no real separation between self and others. Mahayana often likens compassion and wisdom to the two wings of a bird. Both are necessary for flight. True enlightenment cannot exist without the union of profound insight and boundless compassion. 6. Scriptural sources. The Skros of Enlightenment. Mahayana's vision of enlightenment is richly expressed in its scriptures. Among the most important are the Prosh Paramiti, Stros. These texts emphasize emptiness and the perfection of wisdom, showing that enlightenment comes through transcending dualistic concepts. The Lotus Skra, Sadamapu, Ar, Kayas, Tra. It declares the universality of Buddha, teaching that all beings can attain enlightenment and affirming the eternal life of the Buddha. The Avatosaka flower garland, Stra. It presents a cosmic vision of interconnected enlightenment, where each being's awakening resonates through the entire universe. The Vimalakoti Skra. It illustrates enlightenment through the wisdom of lay practitioners and emphasizes non-duality. These texts expand the meaning of enlightenment beyond personal cessation, portraying it as a universal reality and collective destiny. 7. Enlightenment as a dynamic, ever-unfolding reality in Mahayana. Enlightenment is not a static endpoint, but a dynamic, ever-unfolding process. While Nirveb A represents the cessation of delusion, Buddhahood is portrayed as an active engagement with the world. The enlightened being does not retreat into isolation, but remains in samsara out of compassion, manifesting skillful means, upkya, to guide others. This is encapsulated in the doctrine of the Trikya, three bodies of the Buddha, Dharmakya: truth, body, the ultimate reality, beyond form and concept; Sambhogakya, enjoyment body, the celestial, visionary form through which Buddhas teach advanced practitioners; Nirmeb Akya, emanation body, the manifested earthly form of Buddhas appearing in the world to guide beings. Through these bodhis, the Buddha remains active and present, embodying enlightenment as compassionate engagement with the cosmos. 8. Practical implications. Enlightenment in everyday life. For Mahayana practitioners, enlightenment is both the distant goal and the immediate practice. While ultimate Buddhahood may take countless lifetimes, the cultivation of bodhicitta, compassion, and wisdom can be lived daily. Meditation practices such as wamatha, calm, abiding, and vipayan, insight, are cultivated, but often framed within the bodhisattva ideal. Ethical practices such as generosity, patience, and morality are performed not only for personal purity but for the welfare of others. Devotional practices, including chanting sutras, visualizing Buddhas and bodhisattvas, and making offerings, nurture bodhicitta and strengthen the connection to the universal awakening. Thus, enlightenment is not distant or abstract. It is lived in each act of kindness, each moment of mindfulness, each expression of wisdom and compassion. 9. Enlightenment as cosmic and universal. Ultimately, Mahayana portrays enlightenment as cosmic in scope. The Buddha is not simply a historical figure but a universal presence. Enlightenment is not a personal achievement but the destiny of all beings. The vision of the Avatasaka Skra, where one enlightened being reflects and illuminates the whole cosmos, captures this expansive view. This vision inspires practitioners with a sense of vast purpose. Each step on the path contributes not only to one's own liberation, but to the awakening of the entire universe. Conclusion. Enlightenment in Mahayana Buddhism is a vision both profound and vast. It transforms the quest for liberation from a private escape into a cosmic mission of compassion and wisdom, grounded in the doctrines of emptiness and Buddha nature, illuminated by the Bodhisattva ideal, and expressed in the great Mahayana. It portrays awakening as universal, dynamic, and inseparable from the liberation of all beings. To be enlightened in this vision is not to withdraw from the world but to embrace it fully, seeing its emptiness, responding with compassion, and working tirelessly for the freedom of all. Mahayana Buddhism thus expands the meaning of enlightenment into a boundless horizon, where the awakening of one is inseparable from the awakening of all.